Hello everyone, Dave War here with Team Horizon. I have been working with our new system, our AR20410T with the Synapse gyro. And I've been asked and have helped several people set them up. There's a few different ways of doing it. The way I personally do it is I use 4 flight modes. Flight modes are associated with my flap switch. In the 4th flight mode, I'll put on a switch to shut off the gyro itself. So this is a turbo timber that I have flown. It is all set up. Did a factory reset on it. So I'm going to walk you through how I set up the radio first to get the flight modes I want to be talking to in the receiver itself. So we have flight modes in the radio, but now we also have flight modes within the receiver itself that are controlling the gyro functions. The way we control those are just by a channel output, which is going to be logical switches. And this is where you get your positions of the logical switches. 100%, 0%, negative 100 is flight mode 3, and flight mode 4 is 125%. So I'll go over that on how I get that put into the radio itself, which is step 1. Whoops. So we're going to let's just start over here. Model setup, logical switch setup. You want to select a switch. So first switch I'm using, I want to grab my flap switch, which is D. And you can see that's position 0, 1, and 2 get populated. And then my second switch I want to use is going to be this, my H switch for me. That populates number 3. So wherever I move my flaps, you can see that it's always going to ask for number 3 position. Flap switch off. It always will override whatever flap position you are in, hence whatever flight mode you're in. So position 0, that's going to be flight mode 1 for me. I need to put in this box here 100%. Okay, let's come down to position 1. You can see output position 1 is 0%. That is flight mode 2 to that chart that I showed you. Here is going to be negative 100. And now we want to select position 3, which is going to be 125. So our logical switch setup is complete. Now I can come back in all the way out. I also will take note of what open channels I have that I want to use for I'm going to have a gain channel, I'm going to have a flight mode channel, and then I'm also going to put my lock gain on a slider. So I'm using aux4 for that. aux2 is going to be my flight modes themselves. I'm sorry, aux3, and then aux2 is going to be on my dial for my gains. But we'll see, that'll all make sense once we go into the forward programming. Gyro settings, first time setup. Model's already been flown, all good. All right, I'm just going to set it up manually because I know the position of what mine is in. It is not that one, it is this position here. And that is verified. So I'll continue. I want to select my gain channel, right? All right, my gain channel I wanted was aux2. So gain channel is going to be aux2, and I'm going to grab my knob, which it already was on, but if that was inhibited, it would have grabbed it. So next, we already selected our gain channel. Going to apply that. Come back into forward programming, gyro settings. So now I want to set up my flight modes. Flight mode setup. what flight mode channel did I want? I wanted aux3 for that. Now this is where the new update that we just had come out. You can see I can scroll all the way down to logical switches. So now when I select my logical switches, that is now controlling my flight modes. And you can see I'm in flight mode 3, flight mode 2, flight mode 1. When I go over here,
Gyro off. Gyro
does not go to flight mode 4 yet, because there's one thing we have to do. We have to come into utilities and select the 4th flight mode. System setup. That is under utilities. We only have 3 flight modes enabled. Let's enable that 4th flight mode. Gyro response test, you can come into that right now and verify. This basically puts it in a high gain and heading, and when you move your model, you can easily see that the surfaces are moving the correct way. AS3X settings. All right, so now if I come in and let's look, my gains are going to be at the stock rates at 40, 50, and 60. There's a flight mode 1, 2, 3, and there's my 4th flight mode, which has not been turned off yet, but we will enable that in a minute. Priority, 140 from the get-go. This basically is telling you when the gyro is going to be turned off away from center. About half travel it's turned off. If that was set down to 100 when you're at your full travel limits, that's when the gyro is shutting off, but it gives a kind of a weird, almost like a exponential feel. I don't like it that much. The 140 is kind of nice, keeps it tight. Capture gyro gains, kind of just show you what happens now. Here's up the knob, so when I turn it up all the way, we're at 40, 50, and 60. We'll just go to normal flight mode 1 for that. So within each of these, you can capture these gains, but I'll start off and I'll just go into flight mode 1 and keep on dialing it up, have it off when I take off, keep on turning it up, turning it up, turning it up till I get a number when I'm hitting my jabs here on the ailerons to see if you get a little bit of a bounce. There is one other thing, you can take it to another level with your stop lock rates. I think that the stop lock rates, I think of it like a delay of when the gyro comes back on. So if you have your normal default rates are 35 on the stop lock rate, what I do is I'll jack that up to 100. So when I'm doing my aileron jabs, it instantly will make you feel and see the bounce. So if you ever had it at 0, you're going to get a long delayed reaction of when the gyro comes back in. It's going to feel very sluggish and very dead. That's why we have it set at 35. But you go up to 100, get that, see a little bit of bounce, and then you bring that 100 number down until you're doing your jabs on your aileron, until you basically, you see them go away. And then whatever value that is, you can capture that value. Typically, it's going to be between 35 and 50 is what I have seen. In order for us to be able to see this all change, right, when we move our knob, you got to make sure that flight mode 1, flight mode 2, flight mode 3 are all in adjustable. If they were fixed and you go to the knob, it's not going to move. So if I'm in flight mode 1 and these are all in fixed and I come to capture gyro gains and I move my knob, I'm not going to do anything. You can see. Has to be set and adjustable for it to to move, and that's where you can go and verify that. Adjustable, 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 all 3 axes, which I want. Go back to capture gyro gains. There's flight mode 1, and you can see it's being adjusted. Same as flight mode 2, same as flight mode 3. All right, so let's come back to, I wanted to go and set up my flight modes. Remember, I wanted to,
Gyro off.
flight mode 4, we want inhibited. So now that is my master controlled off. Flight
Gyro
mode
on.
3, 1, 2, and 3 are all active. System setup for gain channel select. This is that next step that I take it to. Gain channel 1, that's defaulted. It's aux2, it's AS3X, it's all axes, and that's normal gain. That's always going to be set up when you go to set up your original gain. Now, on gain channel 2, I'm going to be, what did I say I was using on that 2, 3, aux4, I do believe, all right? The mode, going to stay AS3X. Those are your only 2 options. My axes, I want all axes, all. Not normal gain, but I want our lock, stop lock rate. Okay, so now that is on aux4 itself. I'm going to come all the way out of here. I'm going to go to channel assign. And on aux4, I already have it assigned, but I want my left slider. If it wasn't there, once you grab it, it just grabs it for you. So now, if I come back into forward programming.
Holds 1. Holds 1.
Turn that off. So we're going to go and look at our stop lock rates. These are only going to be at 35, right? So I want to, in all 3, I want to jack these up to 100. Okay, they're all at 100. So now when we go to capture gyro gains and we come to our heading's always going to be off. We need to mess with that. You can see right now on my slider we're 100.
Holds 1.
This is what I was talking about here. Lock rate, we want adjustable. In all flight modes. Capture gyro gains. Come back to that screen. When I move my slider, now I'm able to change that out. What I found out when you have the detent on the slider, if you're at the detent and you just come out of the detent, it basically puts it at the default rate. So that's what I'll take off in at first and just kind of leave her there. Once I'm up in the air, bring it up to 100. It's not going to do anything weird actually, and then you'll start bringing up this number for your gyro gains until you get a little bit of a bounce. Now, if you don't get a bounce and you're only on the 1-time multiplier, you come up to the 2-time multiplier. Go back, try that again. 4-time multipliers also there. Very rarely used. Used it on some bigger 3-meter stuff because there's not much travel in the slower. I've used it in a Renegade. We've used it Desperado. Smaller stuff, 339. Yeah, 1-time multiplier is getting it done. So at that point, I've got everything done that I need to get done. It's time to take the plane up. Once I have taken the plane up and I have come up, and let's say my knob position is for flaps up, normal, fast flying around. I got a little bit of I got some aileron stabs and I got a little bit of a bounce at 100% on my slider. I brought it back down to mid, which is right at about 50%, and it went away. I'm good. So I'm going to come into forward programming after that flight. Gyro settings, AS3X settings. I'm going to come into my capture gyro gains. That is for flight mode 1. That's my numbers. I can come here and verify, okay, I'm at 49% on my lock rate. So if I capture this gains right now, that changes the mixed adjustable, the fixed or adjustable back here automatically over to fixed for flight mode 1. So it's an easy little thing. Once you find that out and you're flying in the air and you like that, you can't really do this in the air. You got to come down and land and or have a buddy kind of be watching on your monitor at what position that was in. We could basically find it out here. You could have this monitor pulled up while you're flying, and let's say that's where your normal flying flaps up position was. You're at number 34 on my slider right here. So you can come back, once you're back into, and take it a step further than that, you can do landing flaps and start jacking this up. Let's say I get all the way up here and it feels good and tight and I'm starting to see a little wag of gear down, flaps down. 78. So I need to remember 34 and 78, right? Come back into forward programming, gyro settings, AS3X settings, capture gyro gains. All right, flight mode 1, I wanted to be at 34 on my travel, which was putting it about right here. We can verify that. 34. 34. Let's come back into that and now capture those gyro gains. For flight mode 1, right? Capture gyro gains. That's locked in. Remember we said 78 for flight mode 3. There's 78. Come back in. AS3X settings and go to capture gyro gains. We want to capture those gains. Those numbers are 35. Capture those gains. So now there's my gains for flight mode 3, 2, and 1, right? So if I come up and verify them up here, 26, 33, 40. Flight mode 3 is 35. So my takeoff flaps are still 40, 50, or are still 40, 50, 60. 26 to 35. You know what? I'll just put that at 30. So I'm going to come back into capture gyro gains, go to takeoff flaps, split the difference. Let's come down a little bit. Let's go to 30 on that one, all right? Capture those gyro gains. And what that also does too is when you come into your stop locks, it capture those gains too in all 3 flight modes. So now the knob doesn't do anything, my slider doesn't do anything. You can go back into channel assign and disable those. But I like to leave them active myself in case I ever want to come in and kind of redo something. But now you can, let's say you're out there flying around and you're thinking that, you know, my ailerons could use a little less or a little bit more in whatever specific flight mode you're in. You can just manually add to it or, you know, take it away. So that's the reason why I like using the 4 flight modes, because once if I only had the 1 flight mode, I can't really change that without using a mix. Here I can just come in and visually see it, see what the differences are, and you know, with my stop lock rates, I can see what they are. You know, if flight mode 3, if it needed something different, you know, you can see how that changes. Flight mode 1, 2, and 3. So 49, I've just seen that they kind of just work all that number once I find it, even with flaps down and takeoff flaps. But that's all I really have to talk about. That's a basic setup for 4 flight modes that I use. It's not super complicated, but at first when you do try it, it can be confusing. Once you do it a few times, it's pretty straightforward, not a big deal. Anybody has questions, please reach out to me. More than happy to help. The system itself, I'm really liking it. It's got a very locked in feel. You can just keep on making it as adjustable as you want, or you know, as minimal as you want. Hope everybody has a good flying season. See you out there.